calling all Ruai and Kim Yohan fans. Today on When East Meets South, we chat about School 2021, the newest installment of the School K-drama series. This version of the School series talks about what it's like to be a vocational student in South Korea and the challenges they face in society.
Discuss School 2021 and the school series more broadly. Full disclosure, we're doing this because Kim Yohan is my bias, and therefore we have to talk about School 2021. So join us to talk about school dramas more broadly, but also School 2021 in particular. And I hear Sharon has some comments. So Sharon.
I have thoughts.
Sharon, do you want to start with telling us a little bit of the history of the school series?
Sure, yeah. So the school series, I mean, it's quite prolific, and it's been around in Korea for decades at this point. It started in the 90s with these like 20-minute long, I won't say sitcoms because they weren't like laugh track funny haha shows, but they were like shorter, a lot more episodes, like 30, 40, 50 episode series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it would play, I remember these kinds of series vividly because my mom would watch like the really short half-hour vignette ones before going to bed. And it seemed like, and it was true, that these shows were going on for forever because they would air like every night sort of thing. So it was, I think schools 1 through 4 maybe in that kind of format. And then the first kind of K-drama format as we know it, being like the 12 to 16 to 24 episode runs of like 1 hour plus episodes, really began with School 2013, which I think I'm getting my schools confused because there's so many, but 2013 was
Is that the one with Lee Jung-suk? Because
no.
School 2013 has Lee Jung-suk.
School 2013 has Lee Jung-suk? Oh yeah. So that's the one where they're like in the bad high school, right? And they're
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then 2015 is when the like mystery element started being introduced into the school series, which was in 2015 and 2017. There's always some sort of like, there's like a murder mystery happening or like a fraud mystery happening. But 2021 was kind of a departure from 15 and 17 and a return to 13 almost. And I personally really enjoyed the fact that they chose to center the school was a vocational high school, because that's not something that you would typically see in a Korean drama or talking about Korean education system. Whenever people talk about the education system, it's like the hagwons, the academies, and like the really prestigious schools and like fighting to get into college and that sort of like academic rigor is what's featured in a lot of dramas. But this one, it's vocational high school where they major in things like carpentry and other like trade-based lessons. So I appreciated that for this one.
I did too, particularly because recently Korea was in the news for actually putting all the high school students taking the SAT equivalent exams in quarantine so that they can actually go take this exam, because this exam was so important for their futures. So I was really, and I identify with that system because I came out of that kind of a system in India. In India too, there is this exceptional overwhelming importance placed on white collar jobs and professional jobs, and professional degrees as they're called. So I really appreciate it too, because backstory, I did not start out as a historian. In India, I couldn't do humanities because in my high school, when I was at the age of the kids character shown in School 2021, my school was considered one of the good schools in my town. And so it was called English medium school. So the education happened in English. not in the local language Malayalam, our language Malayalam. And that was considered, that happened in good schools. The government schools, or that taught in Malayalam medium were the bad schools. So first of all, there is like a linguistic preference. And then when you get to, in India, when you get to the 11th and 12th standards, as they're called, which is the junior and senior year of high schools here and in Korea, you're made to choose a major, or so you have to choose a stream where you can choose. So the good students have two choices. You can choose the math stream or the sciences, the biology stream, so that you can either become an engineer or a doctor. If you're a bad student, you go into commerce, which is accounting, and you go do some, your father's business. But our school did not even offer a humanities stream because it was for losers, and you just go to an arts college for that kind of thing. You don't go to like, an English medium school to learn humanities. So I really, and I was a math computer science major. And so I really identify with this because I remember we also have entrance exams to colleges. And what they did was you kind of write and you get rankings, and then you get to enter universities, but you enter universities within a distinct major that you can't change. So if you sit up for engineering entrance exams, you become an engineering student, you cannot change. You'll have to quit college, go back, retake the exams if you want to become something else. And so my parents were like, I was like, I want to do literature. And my parents went, no, you go do engineering because you're good at studies. And so I really identify with it. And eventually I ended up doing an architecture degree in an engineering college. So I totally identified with them in ways that, brought back like, memories. So it's a broader Asian culture of privileging white collar jobs and non-vocational intellectual careers. And it makes sense in certain ways, because if you're the second or the third generation that's truly in a society where you can have upward mobility, upward social and economic mobility, you want your kids to have that. And in the minds of the previous generation, it is basically that's what's going to give you the money. That's what's going to give you stability and certainty in your life. And so I totally understand where the sentiments come from, but oh my God, so much feelings. Sorry, that went on for a while.
I thought it was really interesting, the way that they showed the dynamic of the mother of Jiwon, the main female character.
Yeah.
Her mother is a director of a hagwon.
Yes.
And students who go to hagwons are the ones who do want to excel in these scholastic aptitude tests and have aspiration of studying abroad. If you're able to study abroad, that means that your family is A, wealthy, but B, you are also intelligent enough to be able to do that, or talented enough if you're going to a specialized school like an art school. And how the mother was like embarrassed of her. And embarrassed of the high school that she went to, because everyone knows that high school is a special vocational school.
Yeah.
And what I found very interesting is that the female lead made it very clear that it was written into her character that she chose to go to the school, that she is a good student. She could have gone to any of the other schools that her mother probably would have preferred her to go to, but she actively chose to go to the school because she wanted a guarantee of a job. She did not want to go through the circus of being pumped out of a college with a random degree, and then trying to make it into the corporate world, where there's so much competition. Because if you can get a job at one of these major corporations, even if it's a low-level entry job, it is considered a coup. And so she doesn't want to be a burden on her parents. She doesn't want to be a burden on society by being jobless for the years immediately after college. So she knows that there is a gap in the market, that there's a need for workers in these trade jobs. So she actively chooses to pursue this path, not thinking that it's any lesser than her counterparts in other schools. And I found that really refreshing character trait.
I love her character. I think she's adorable. Like, she's totes adorbs. Just as a person, right? Like, just cute. I was reading comments earlier, as you should, of your biases videos, and there were people on Johan's. I'm guessing they're international audience, but they had, oh, they're so cute, they should really date in real life. And I was like, oh, Ruai people are going to skin your happiness if you say that out loud. But there's a genuine interest in them as a couple as well. But like, I think she's just adorable. Her character is very, very adorable, and almost, the one thing I did appreciate is they did not. The other school 2013 that I really liked is Yi Jong-suk's. I told Sharon about this, where that was for very different reasons. But School 2021, they kind of got the naivete of of that age where you think things are possible and you do things like an adult, but you're not quite an adult yet. So it's a simplified version of adulthood. And I thought that was actually very realistically done, where she thinks she can do change by protesting, or by going to this vocational school and getting a job. She can actually be independent. And there's this optimism, this naive optimism to that age group that I think was very realistically captured. And I appreciated that as well.
Mm-hmm. Talking about Johan's character and the character of Ji-won, the female lead, I feel like we need to talk about a condition that plagues many K-drama watchers, and that is second lead syndrome. I will say 95% of the time, I have major second lead syndrome. And it's because, to be fair, it's because the second lead is always written to be the like perfect alternative, right? It's the one that will always do everything right, but his or her story is made just that much more tragic because the lead doesn't go for them, right? So I felt that way about the second lead in this show.
너 나랑 같은 반 아냐?
네.
기계 발로 차지 마.
네.
I warned you. If it was not Kim Yohan in the lead, I'm like, I was like, oh no, I'm in serious second lead syndrome trouble. That character is so nice and lovely. Like, I'm like, why are you not the lead? Wait, I didn't say that. You're undone. I did not say that, and I don't believe it. But yes, it's very real with this one. That character is just wonderful, and the guy who plays Cho Young-woo, he is really good too in that portrayal. I've been watching a lot of their interviews, and they were having these lightning rounds, and he's so cute. He was just like, they were asking, who is the senior that you look up to in the school series that's happened before, and I think Johan says Yi Jung-suk. I think, and the girls say some names, and then it goes to Cho Young-foo, and he says Kim Yohan's and Benim because he thinks of Kim Yohan as a senior. It is so he's just adorable. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, this was only his second, I think, first or second role. He's quite new to the industry, and I thought he played it well. The character was written really well. He was very good at the prototypical like stare longingly at the girl while she's doing something, like looking down, and then she looks up and the world is shiny around her, and his face looking at her was just, it gave me a lot of feels. In particular, one of the earlier episodes, when he runs into her at the convenience store she works at for the first time, she goes back inside to help a customer, and he's looking at her through the glass. And that moment, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have major second lead syndrome in this.
I agree completely. If it was not Kim Yohan in the lead, I would have and I don't have as much second lead syndrome as you do, Sharon. Like, I like to stick with the lead. Like, I'm very faithful to the lead. So it takes a lot of really good acting to actually get me to root for the second lead or come close. I think he's someone to watch out for too from the series. I think they pick some really good people to act in these characters, and maybe they weren't completely utilized in certain ways, I think, but I'm really looking forward to seeing them in other series and see them just grow as actors as well.
너 뭐 하는 거야? 미안. 사고 터지고 나서도 미안하다고 할래?
I completely agree. I think one of the actors and characters that was utilized to an extent, but then his story was kind of like turned upside down in an uncharacteristic way. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Is a character, okay, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched School 2021, skip ahead. But Ho-sung, the friend, Johan's character's friend, is the actor, or the way he acted reminded me a lot of a young Henry Lau, who was in Super Junior and in Oh My Venus. Their mannerisms and the way they deliver the comedic lines is very, very similar. So I appreciated him.
다시 옛날로 돌아가는 거?
옛날? 옛날 뭐?
너네 원래 서로 첫사랑이잖아.
아, 뭔 소리? 아니거든.
수상해. 부끄러워하지 말고 말해봐. 너 지원이 좋아하지?
Storyline took a complete left turn, and I was like, I feel like this is them trying to make it a little bit like the old school series where there's something really impactful and serious that happened, and they kind of did that a little bit at the beginning with the suicide note that they find in Johan's locker, but that kind of becomes a little bit happy shiny again, right? It doesn't really impact as much as I thought it would at the beginning of the series, but then Ho-sung, he becomes a teenage father, and I was like, oh, that came out of nowhere.
I swear I almost missed that scene. So this is the other thing. I think I have watched only 2 school series before this. I watched 3. The 2013 and 2017, two series. And they're always like high on drama. Like, there is a lot of like, it's like 2013. It's just moment to moment to moment. It's just a lot of just high up their adrenaline. And this one was so subtle. Like, it was even like the moment where Ho-sung comes in with his baby. I almost missed that scene because I was like, wait, what happened? Because you just miss certain scenes because it's delivered so lightly. The scene, there is an intense scene towards the end of the series where Yohan's character is going through something. I'm trying not to give spoiler alerts, or trying not to give spoilers. But like even that scene, it's very subtly done without the kind of, don't want to call it histrionics because it gives a negative rep for that kind of scenes, but like without the drama that I expect from like Bollywood and K-drama world. So that was very differently done. And I think this is the most subtle of any K-dramas I've watched. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it was pretty subtle. Even the moments where the big moments, which there's a big moment in Johan's character's life that happens in the second half of the series. And even then it was like muted, right?
Yeah. Muted, that's the word.
Yeah, like you're right. When these things happen, it's like normally in dramas, it's like the car crash happens and your adrenaline is pumping and they have amnesia and it's like very, very dramatic. But this one was subtle, muted, a little bit more nuanced. It made you feel, but it didn't make you like die, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there is this, it was very realistically, almost too realistically portrayed in some ways, and it was definitely like a directorial choice. You know that they chose to deliver it in that way, and I appreciated it, but also it was very un-K drama like in some ways, at least the way I see it.
Yeah, it was almost like some of the older dramas were a little bit like that.
See, I haven't gotten around to watching the older dramas.
The older dramas are campy in their own way and a little bit more like novella-y, telenovela-y own way. But it's see a little bit of a kind of a throwback in how the story was chosen to be told. Which it was kind of like Romance is a Bonus Book in a sense that like nothing, like spikes do happen in the storyline, but it's kind of like a continual flow. And there are parts of that make you feel really good and parts where you feel a lot of empathy and sympathy toward the characters, but there wasn't ever like, the big amnesia point or the almost drowning or, any of those other things that happen in K-dramas.
Yeah, and that point about the highs and the lows, they clearly, as an art visual historian, I was looking at how it's been always partitioned. Like, there are three parts to the story, three parts essentially, and each part has an emotional moment and a sub storyline within the larger story, and then they kind of resolve each of those things in each of those thirds before they move on, which sounds formulaic, but it's not a formula that I am quite used to in K-dramas, because in K-dramas you have these problems, but they keep sort of coming in and going out throughout the thing. There's no resolution in the middle of at least for the main leads, there are no resolutions in the middle of the storyline. The resolution always comes at the end, because then it's a happy ending at the end, and you're sort of like driven towards that happy ending. But in School 2021 is probably the only one where there is a resolution for one of their problems somewhere in the middle. For the Kim Yohan's Gung Ki-jun and Jung Young-ju, I'm just looking at their names so that I don't get it wrong. The characters, their resolution happens, and then Jung Young-ju's family problem resolution happens sort of in the second, third of the thing. And then, so each of them, their problems gets resolved before moving on. I don't quite know if I liked that treatment. Mainly because I think that kind of contributes to, by the end, you're like, oh, you watched it, but like, you don't have that big sort of like, woohoo, yeah, everybody's happy. That sort of thing that you expect from K-dramas.
Yeah, like finalness to it. And I think you're right. This drama, looking back on it, was very much in like 3 acts, if you will, and each act almost centered around one subplot that then gets resolved in that act. So then by that point you're like, oh well, it's going to get resolved at the end anyway, and you're not left with this like big satisfying breath of relief or sigh of relief at the end like you normally would have with a K-drama. And in a way, yes, I don't know if I find that to be a better way of watching a K-drama. I think I might prefer the big like kind of bang at the end. But I guess the directorial choice of making it more subtle and mimicking more like life, because right, you would have things resolving at different times and it's not a completely linear timeline. In that sense, I guess the directorial choice was achieved. But yeah, I agree. I would prefer, I always joke too that K-dramas always last one episode too long, where the bang like happens. If it's a 16 episode run, the bang happens on episode 15 and the 16 is like entirely resolution. But you're so involved at that point, you need to watch episode 16. So that's just me though.
No, me too. I'm like, by 15, everything's done. But like, I'm like, I need to see this being tied up in a nice little bow and given to me.
In a future episode coming to you very soon, we're going to talk about some of these larger K-drama tropes and story arcs as well. So don't worry, we will definitely dive into those. But I think if I have any finishing remarks about School 2021, and for anyone who is curious about watching it or has watched it, I think Deepthi is totally right that these actors who are in it have a very bright future ahead of them. They did have some OGs in this drama. The actor who plays the Haraboji, the grandpa, has been in so many things for so long. I feel like I've always seen him on TV growing up. So it was really fun to see him come back. But yeah, the actors I think are super talented. The storyline is like satisfying because there's multiple storylines that might cater to a lot of different people's tastes, but it is much more subtle than what you would probably get from School 2015 or 2017. And if you are one of those people, like for me, I definitely enjoy watching school dramas that also have something else attached, like a murder mystery or like an idol drama or something like that. I was pleasantly surprised at kind of following just the lives of high school students and being able to watch it. So I would say it's a decent watch for me. Any last thoughts for you, Deepthi?
I'd say if you haven't watched the School series, I'd say watch School 2021 and then watch School 2013, the Yi Jung-suk one, and compare the two. It is night and day difference. They're both good, but they are so different that it just blows my mind that those are the same series, but it's meant to happen. Like, it's shot by different people, acted by different people, but and my pleasantest part was realizing that Yohan can actually act. Like, he can act, but I did not think of him as an actor. I thought of him as an idol. But like, there are moments in the series where he's really acting, and I liked that because I'm like, oh, he can also really act. He's not just an actor because he has a pretty face. Like, he can actually do the job, and that was somehow that made me happy for him because he's Yorang Dan here, he's been working so hard this last year. He got COVID. He's been going through some very hard couple of years. And then he also ended up winning the Best Actor Award on KBS Drama. And they won the Best Couple Award as well. So yay, happy ending.
I will say, last aside, Yohan does have his acting face though. There's a particular face he makes where he stares and then his eyes flicker.
Oh, yes. And his favorite actor that he wants to emulate is Park Seo-joon. So I'm noticing where he is he's going with that.
Give School 2021 a watch. It is pleasant. And next time we'll chat more about K-drama tropes. Thank you all.